Welcome to Processing Purpose, a business and lifestyle podcast committed to having honest conversations about the stuff in our lives that is often suppressed, ignored, or overlooked. We are two brothers from very different backgrounds, but with one common goal. From entrepreneurship to relationships, from hobbies to house projects, nothing is off limits as we process becoming the best version of ourselves in business and life. We are back.
We are super back.
That seems like the default, like the way I jump on here. And we're back.
As if you all have missed us deeply and greatly.
It's been 2 weeks since you've heard us.
But it kind of has been a little bit since we've recorded, and just because we have lots going on.
Yeah.
I mean, just a ton of summer fun.
It's been full.
Rad.
We did a camp trip this last week.
Yeah. In fact, I just told your wife that this weekend's gonna be my 4th weekend in a row camping.
That's a lot.
I'm loving it though. Like I didn't, like I had mentioned when we were camping, I didn't do a lot of camping, a little bit here and there, as a kid. And so, yeah, when I do it, I just do it, man. I just get it all in.
Jeez, 4 weekends in a row? Oh yeah, because you took the littles out up the icicle too. Yep. What was the other one?
Well, it was just one camp night going down to the Henry's Fork, going through Cataldo. What did you guys use? What did you guys used to call that town?
We called it Cataldo.
That's a more fun way to say it.
But it's Cataldo.
Well, what are we chatting about today?
Yeah, we're going to talk about life design. Now, it's kind of a buzzy phrase, right? Life design sounds fancy, but let's take a second and just define that. Like, what does life design? What do those words mean to you?
It means intentionality.
Yeah.
Meaning you are creating a vision for what you want your future to look like, right? Or what you want your life to look like now, right? Mm-hmm. We had a mutual friend ask me that question. Well, how do you even start doing that? Like, if I want to design my life, right? It's one thing to say, oh, I want a Hummer. I want, fine, right? Vision boards are great. But I told him, I said, for me, I think it just starts with, and we can get into this more later, but it starts with eliminating the things you don't want to do. Right? There's a number of things we do that we have to do. It's just part of life.
Yeah.
But there's a lot of those things that we can delegate. There's a lot of those things that we can supplement in different ways, automate in different ways. Have I done that all super well? No, but we're efforting toward that reality for sure. And so, yeah, just creating conveniences, automations, things like that around your lifestyle that frees up your time.
Yeah.
I think for me, I've explained in the past that my number one value is freedom. And a designed lifestyle creates freedom. But as you know, the only way to gain more freedom is more discipline.
Yeah. Yeah. I think for me, the arc that I want to draw through this conversation is that our listener, is living the life they have today based on decisions that they made a decade ago. Right. And the life that we live in a decade will be based on the decisions that we make today. And I think if we can put it in that lens, actually right here on my desk, it says, what story will today's decisions tell? Because what it is that we choose to give our energies to, that we choose to identify as rubs, as you were referring there, things that you don't want to do, those things that we allow to continue to happen, those things that we pursue, will tell a story in the end.
Yeah.
And I think we sometimes go about it unconsciously, or what's the word I'm looking for? Maybe a little apathetically, like, there's nothing I can really do about this anyway. This is the lot I've been given. This is the life that has found me. And yet, I think if we peeled it all back, sure, there are going to be some situations that happen.
Right.
And it wasn't your fault.
Right.
That could be economics, that could be community, that could be relationally, that affect those things. Sometimes that is the lot that you've been given. And yet we can choose what we do with those things and how they affect us and steer us and the choices that we make. And it can either be victim or it can be victor in the way you kind of respond to some of those things. And so, yeah, the choices that we make today will determine the arc that we live.
Yeah.
And intentionality, I think, is a great word that you used. You know, being intentional with what we choose and what we're doing.
Yeah.
So how has life design influenced the decisions that you've made to, let's make it simple, live where you live, the job that you have, you know, maybe it's even the spouse that you chose, right? I mean, a lot of this we choose on our own. Right. So how has designing your life affected some of those things?
Yeah. So you're a much more cerebral guy. I'm a much more gut driven, feelings driven kind of guy. And so I rely on that a lot. Right. Has it failed me in the past? Sure. Right. Like, we're not perfect human beings, but my gut guides me. And so honestly, like, I don't know. It's funny. Like, I have moments of vision where I can kind of see the future and get excited about things in the future. But I don't know. Like, I think opportunities avail themselves, and I just feel in the moment, does this feel right or does it feel wrong? And I know that my intuition is going to guide me in the right direction. I've said for a long time that it's a gift from God, and I really believe that. And if it wasn't the right decision, like what I've found that in decision making, unless it's illegal or which I've done in the past, I hate to admit, but unless it's that
statute of limitations is expired.
yeah, on judgment, or you know, I just know myself well enough to know that if it's the wrong decision, I'm going to be okay.
Yeah.
You know, like, I've learned over and over that failure, whatever you want to call it, mistakes, learning experiences, like, it's never ruined me. Right?
Yeah.
Like, I think people fear that, right?
Yeah.
If I make the wrong decision today, and I was going to ask that question too, with, you know, with believing or the perception that the decisions I made 10 years ago has landed me where I am today. I think that can cause decision constipation for some people, right? Well, shoot, I don't
weight of that.
Yeah. Like, I don't want to make decisions now. Like, obviously I'm not in a place I want to be today. So I made bad decisions. And so it doesn't, but one of my counselors said a while back, and I really appreciated it. He said, I was really down on myself for, I don't know, maybe spending money for something that I shouldn't have or something. And he goes, so what? You made the best decisions you could with the information you had available to you at the time.
Yeah.
Now you know different. So now you'll make different decisions.
Yes.
And I said, yeah, okay.
That is a massive tenet.
Yeah.
Like cornerstone pillar to life design is allowing yourself the grace to iterate, learn, change.
Yeah.
Because you're not going to do it right.
Right.
You can't. None of us can. We're doing the best we can, like you said, with the information that we have at our fingertips, and that information is incomplete and flawed. It just is.
Yep.
And so giving yourself the grace to make a decision the best that you can, and then permission to recognize, okay, this didn't land me where I wanted to go. This isn't heading in the direction that I wanted it to go. And instead of going, but I'm committed, here we go. No, pump the brakes. Is there an out? Can we pivot? Is there a change? Or if you have to complete it, complete the mission.
Right.
And choose to do it differently next time based on now new learned data.
Correct.
And I think a prime example, and you don't have to go any deeper than you want to, is what we were just talking about before we turned the microphones on.
Right.
On kind of your real estate arc, and we've touched on you making changes and pivots and
going back and forth.
It's kind of been all over the place. So maybe just take a quick second and just give us an example of how the model change has changed your view.
Yeah, and more or less the necessity for the business right now.
Yeah.
It is what the business needs, and as a business owner, regardless of your own personal trajectory, wants, needs, the business needs what it needs to survive, and it's up to us as entrepreneurs to step up, roll up our sleeves, and get it done. And so that's probably what's driving this more than anything. But the model has a lot to do with it. You were absolutely right in what you said before. Model matters. And so before the last couple of years, we were a Keller Williams team. Keller Williams is a company, great company, running a team it started making less and less sense for me, because what I was running into was I was bringing on newer agents. I was creating a value package that was costing me variable money every single month, whether they were producing or not. And my model was flawed. I had a model that it was a healthy commission split for me, but only if they were high producing agents. I made some money doing that. I mean, it wasn't, all for naught.
Sure.
But since forming a firm, so we legalized, we formed a legal firm with the state, and we are our own brokerage now. And that model is completely different.
Yeah.
We provide brokerage services. We have, CRM programs. We have office space. We have a great culture environment for people to work in. We have marketing materials people have access to. But all of those things have been created already, and they're not variable costs that are adding more and more on me. So all that to say is I had a view of like, hey, I think I'm just going to keep it small, tight, not go in and try to recruit a bunch of people and do all this. Well, my operations manager made a great point yesterday. She said, well, Gavin, the model's different now, right?
Yeah.
Like, you're tentative to go find new people because of the experience you went through. And yeah, she's like, I wouldn't either. That was tough, right? You had a lot of disappointments back and forth. It was hard. Mm-hmm. But now it's different. You're a designated broker of a brokerage. They're independent contractors. You don't have to babysit anybody, and there's no variable costs involved here. And so I thought, yeah, it's time then. It's time to give this a shot and recalibrate recruiting in my mind and get excited about it again. So I've set 5 appointments with really key players who are amazing human beings, and that's what I'm after now. I'm not looking for bodies. I'm looking for key players who are going to add to the culture of Alpine Group, not just ask what's in it for me.
And that's an arc based on learnings along the way. You couldn't have landed in that spot.
Correct.
Without doing it the way you did it before and going, I don't love this.
Right.
I didn't have that learning before. I had to do that.
Right.
To realize that this was uncomfortable or didn't jive or whatever the rub is.
Right.
To then go, well, how can I reconfigure this? And you didn't even go into it with that lens of like, I want to reconfigure this to do it right. It was just like, it's time for us to make a change and go in a different direction. We're going to go small. But then when you got there, you went, oh, but now it's different.
But now, not only now it's different, but we also have some needs, right? We're a brokerage now. We need to be able to cover expenses, costs in different ways. And the only way to do that is either produce more income, right?
Yep.
With Brooke, or bring more people in that can also do the same, create a great environment for them to grow and thrive as well. But it's not all on Brooke right now. Half is on Brooke. But if I can...
She's a super high producer.
She's a super high producer, incredibly good at what she does. But, it's my job at this point to alleviate some of that tension in the office and make sure that we have enough revenue to cover everything and more.
Yeah.
And that she can go off and have fun building her career in the way she wants to and not have to worry about the rest.
And here's the truth. You may have these next 5 meetings, bring people on, and find out that you need to iterate again.
Right.
Because that's how
I'm okay with that.
That's how this works. And you have to be okay with that.
Yeah.
All of us have to go, all right, what have I created? And is it moving me in the direction of the life that I want to ultimately live, which is what we're talking about, right? Like, is this going to give me the outcome, the result, the product that I'm trying to create?
Right.
And if not, find a way to make a change. That could be switching careers from one that is high paying but massive demand to one that is less pay but more time, right? And it comes back to, we'd throw back to previous episodes with big rocks, right? You do have to start a bit with the end in mind.
Right.
Right? What are we trying to create? So maybe let's go there next. You said freedom's a big tenet for you. Like, are there other things that are big pieces that influence your decision making as it relates to family, career, things like that are like, this is a non-negotiable, this is a non-negotiable as I make my decisions?
Not really.
Okay.
I know that sounds crazy, but maybe I'm just too optimistic. Like I don't have like like some people will go, well, I have to make sure that I prioritize my kid's college education. I got to put money away there. Well, my dad and my stepmom have absolutely blessed us in such a big way. So I just don't have to think or worry about that. If that's what they want to do, maybe they want to use that to start a business. Sure. Whatever. But, But in terms of like non-negotiables, I mean, like anybody else, I don't want to go backwards, right?
Sure.
Nobody wants to go backwards. I don't want to lose my house and sell my house and move into an apartment and go through that traumatic situation. But I also do know, just from my own experience and being around other players that have done the same, is your lifestyle is contagious. Meaning, once you get to a certain point, if you start to slide backwards, you will do whatever it takes to get back to the point you want it to be at.
Yeah.
I really believe that. Very, very few people, unless a traumatic life event occurs and it just shoves you into a tough spot, I think most people claw their way back to where they were. And so, anyways, I think that's a non-negotiable. I don't want to go backwards. I want to keep building and moving forward and progressing and growing. Growth is a big one for you, I know, and that's for sure, right? I certainly want to keep looking back and appreciate all that has happened and how far we've come. But I know I'm giving you a really ambiguous answer, but I don't have a lot of non-negotiables. Freedom's the number one. I want freedom.
Freedom. Okay. And how would you define that?
Being able to do whatever I want with whomever I want, whenever I want, wherever I want.
But that would be freedom.
Yep.
Yeah.
If I want to go, of course I have children and there's limitations to that too. You can't just go hunt for a month and leave your family behind and all that kind of stuff. But I want freedom to go hunt with my son.
Yeah.
I want freedom to go ride roller skates with my daughter. I want to do whatever. I want to be able to get up and do with my day exactly what I choose to do. And somebody asked me, don't you get to do that already? And I was like, kind of. But that felt really good to be able to say that though.
Yeah.
Half of my lifestyle is still very geared toward, hey, let's work, let's grow, let's do that. But yeah, I mean, I have created a lifestyle where I do have flexibility. I can come here and do a podcast on a Thursday randomly with my brother-in-law.
Yeah.
You can too.
Yeah.
Like, yes, we're still working. Yes, I don't have the elected freedom I want, but I do already have some freedom. And that feels pretty damn good.
Sure.
Yeah. So.
Yeah. I think for me, there's a few things. Freedom is a good word for me as well. Mm-hmm. That for me is more defined, yes, perfectly defined by you. Like, I'm not sure I can define it any better. It's also for me a bit more, maybe to make it a little bit more tangible. It's when I get a phone call at 2:00 in the afternoon on a Thursday of like, hey, me and a buddy are going to go play some golf. You want to go? That I can say, yeah, let me have my assistant clear my calendar, right? If my son walks in while we're recording a podcast episode and says, Dad, can you read a book with me? That I can say, yeah, as soon as I'm done with the podcast.
Yeah, I was going to say, I was like, wait, let's finish the episode.
No, maybe not a great example because I would tell him to turn around. We're recording right now. But if I'm sitting trying to do email or I'm sitting, at my computer, that I can go, yeah, climb up here, let's read this book. And I can do it in that moment. Right? It's not my day not being dictated by another.
What did your life look like 10 years ago? Just a snapshot.
So 10 years ago, we were in the throes of Degree 33. We were probably 7-8 years in of what was a little over a 10-year journey. And we were trying to pivot. So it was...
was that when you had the warehouse?
Yep.
Okay.
Yep. It was... And like we said before, the path that you choose, the decisions that you make will inform future decisions and choices. And at that time, we had started, we were down the road, but we had started a surfboard company, and we did it because it was, the Southern California sexy thing to do, and we saw an opportunity, and it was the right decision for that season for us. But we were also approaching a period of time where we're going, this no longer serves us the way it did. Mm. I'm now tied to this. Right. I've got a retail location. I've got all these employees. I've got production standards. And now we have to sell a certain amount to cover payrolls. And you kind of build a beast in which you can't just walk away from.
Right.
And we had gotten to a point, it's like, how do we how do we pivot from this? And so we were trying to go, this is wonderful. We feel very blessed. And Southern California feels abrasive for some reason. We need to get back to the Pacific Northwest. How do we do this? And that's where we were probably a decade ago. And the decisions that have been made since then have been a result of that experience.
The business you own now very much has been designed because of the things you didn't care for about Degree 33. Am I wrong in saying that? Right.
No, that is 100%.
And I think that's great. That's a great example of how you can take a great life experience, whether or not it was hard, of success, or whatever you want to call it. It was, but you took that, you took all of those experiences and went, all right, now I'm going to shape this business to serve me and my lifestyle and my family in a way that never could.
Yeah. And
whatever iteration you make 10 years from now will make it even better because of the learnings you're going through now.
100%. It was, that business was very one-time purchase. It was product-based. It was location-based. It was, there was zero recurring. I had to sell a new customer every single time. And so you started over every single month, every single year, you had to sell the same amount and you were tied to that location. So when we started the new company, which turned into an advertising agency, after taking some time off, after we sold that, it's like, what does the new one need to look like? We went, okay, we don't want to be tied to a location. So it can't be
brick and mortar.
Rely on a brick and mortar storefront.
Yeah.
That store, if it's going to be product, it's got to be able to be movable.
Yeah.
Okay. It's got to be something that sells itself once, but pays you over and over and over. Okay, so it had to be some sort of subscription or recurring or, membership model of some kind where you're not starting over every single month. I don't have to go and sell something again. Right. I sold it last month. Look at this. I get paid again this month for it. So that was a tenet of it. It needed to have the ability to work remotely for me to operate it from anywhere.
So we can go on vacations, do those things, and still be able to work. Yeah.
So that if I want to go and take a week and go to Disneyland, I'm not taking work off necessarily, although I would definitely scale things back. But the point is, I can be just as productive if I need to be from a different location to still meet the requirements and responsibilities of running an operation as an owner from anywhere in the world. And so, and I'm sure there's more if I gave it thought, but those are pretty good examples of like that business, meaning the surfboard business, influenced the decisions of what we did the next time around. And what we're doing right now will influence the decisions that we make on the next project. Because yes, there will be a next project.
And the reality too is not only do you learn about yourself in general terms when you start to go through these experiences, but you also have to realize too that you yourself as a person are changing through time.
Yeah.
Your expectations, your needs, your wants, your desires, all of those start to change. So you may have set out Degree 33, with a passion and a vision 10 years ago, but you were a different person then.
Yeah.
You had different dreams, different thoughts,
different priorities.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And so now, you're it's cool because you're not only taking all of those learnings, but you're also marrying them with the changed version of you and creating kind of a new pursuit, a new venture, a new,
I love what
pretty cool.
Rob Dyrdek says. He talks about versions of himself.
Yeah.
And he's like, oh, well, that was like version 3 of me. I'm on like version 12.
Yeah.
Because we learn and we iterate and we grow and we change.
Right.
And we bring all of that with us to hopefully make better decisions today than we made yesterday.
Right.
And I love that.
I love that he talks about, and I know I mentioned it to you before, that when he gets to the edge of what he's building, he reinvents himself. He's like, I don't keep trying to push the edge and push the envelope to a point. He's like, I'm done with it.
Yeah.
I'm done with it. Now that's up to each individual to decide what you want to do with that, but that resonates with me.
Yeah.
For sure. I'm not a 1 foot in, 1 foot out kind of guy. I'm like, I want to be 2 feet. You know that. I mean, when I get into something, I get into it.
Yeah.
And I want it to be that way.
Yeah. And I think that's, well, let me zoom out first. Why do you feel like I don't know what you would call it, like coasting on the backside of whatever it is that you created, or trying to push the rock uphill further if it gets difficult? Why do you feel like that's your point where you're like, no, it's time to pivot?
Great question. I don't know. I haven't really thought about that.
Yeah.
I don't know. Maybe that's just part of my DNA.
Sure.
Like Jenny, our sister-in-law, she came up to me. Tanner, our nephew, has some similarities to me in terms of his personality. And it's funny, it came out of nowhere, but she looked at me and she goes, we're trying to help him. Like, he's kind of all over the place. He can't stick to one thing. He kind of loses interest easy. I'm like, oh, this sounds like me.
Yeah.
Like,
sure.
I'm like, all right. And she goes, so what should we help him do? I said, design his lifestyle 5 years at a time. Have him design his lifestyle 5 years at a time.
Sure.
And it just came out, and I was like, I need to design my lifestyle 5 years at a time,
Yeah.
And because that kind of seems to me to where I get to a point every 5 years, to where I start to get bored. I start to get kind of tired of what I'm doing. And I kind of look around going, is this what it is? Like,
Yeah.
I need to do something fresh, something new, get me excited again, like reinvent myself. Like Rob Dyrdek says, I can't explain it any other way. It's just a part of my DNA.
I think that's perfect. I'm similar, actually, because if I feel like I'm not opposed to resistance. Resistance is a part of creating something.
Sure.
But if I get to the point where I feel like my output does not reciprocate return, that's where I go, might be time to make a change. I reach a point where, you mentioned it before, growth is a big thing for me. That can be myself,
right?
Reading books, personal growth, going to, conventions and whatever it might be. But it's also like moving forward in life as well. That's growth with my business and my net worth and my projects and my learnings. And if I get to a point where growth isn't happening, I lose interest.
So I brought this before. It's a Japanese philosophy, but basically, like, your life's purpose, I'm going to try to remember all four, but it's made up of 4 factors. One is you're really good at it.
Okay.
You really like to do it.
Okay.
The world needs it. And you believe it's great work. If all 4 of those things,
write those down,
maintain themselves for you throughout whatever timeline you're in. But I think some of that, for me, after about 5 years, starts to dissolve. I start to question, is this good work? Right? I start to really question things, right? Am I good at this?
Yeah.
Do I like to do this? Right? And if you start to answer those questions with a no, well, then it's time to pivot, I think. I think that's a good baseline.
Well, and you may start as amazing, because you may start an endeavor being able to go, yeah, all 4 boxes are checked.
Yeah.
Based on what we know today.
Right.
Right?
That can change. Yeah.
And that absolutely can change. Whether you're not as good as you thought you were going to be, whether you don't enjoy it as much as you thought you were going to enjoy it, whether it doesn't serve the greater good as well as you thought it was going to serve,
right.
and whatever it might be, that's okay.
Right.
You have permission to pivot.
And if you want to keep on that track, I think the only way to do it is to find human capital to take care of the things you don't want to do, because it doesn't matter what venture you follow. You're going to end up doing some things you don't like to
Sure.
do in order for it to all come together, right?
Sure.
There's going to be administration in the background, things like that. Any business has some things going on that you're not going to either be good at or want to do. So if you want that for the long run, you're a manager type entrepreneur, you're like, I just want one little hub. That's all I care about. You've got to find people to start taking over things you don't like to do as soon as you can afford it, right?
Yeah.
Like, you're going to have to be that person for a while, but once you can afford somebody else, get them in place. Because I think people like myself, you just take on too much of it all, and then you start to burn out too quickly. So if you want it to last longer, just make sure you're delegating those things.
Love it. Let's pivot the conversation just a touch.
Sure.
Okay, so we've talked about career professionally, right? And on this podcast, we spend a fair bit of time there. How does life design influence the town that you chose to live in, the amount of kids that you chose to have, the spouse that you chose, the friends that you choose? Like, is it as intentional in those areas as it is professionally?
Again, I think that the last decade of my life, has really been driven by opportunity and what's in front of me and making those incremental decisions to move the ball forward. Meaning I didn't set out to design the lifestyle we're living now 5 years ago outside of making small micro decisions that felt right in the moment to push us forward. Or maybe some of the bigger decisions, right? Like the home we're in now, I sent out letters to try to drum up some interest in possibly renting to us and maybe even selling to us. And it worked out, right? And so putting in that effort to make it happen. But was it that particular house I was absolutely dying to get? No. Those sorts of things. So we are making our own iterations around the opportunities that were provided to us over the last decade, which has been really fun. It's funny, we've had conversations around Leavenworth. Is this the place we ultimately want to raise our kids?
Yeah.
And then you moved in, and then BB moved here, and then my mom moved in. And then at the end of the day, community is made up of, or really home, I should say, is made up of community, right?
Yeah.
It's being in a place where you feel wanted, needed, loved, appreciated, supported, right? And that we started feeling all those things and we started going, this is home, right? And like everything we want and need is right here. And to be honest with you, this lifestyle, if I'm being vulnerable, has kind of caused a bit of a stall for me, meaning I'm caught between, I was talking to Brooke the other day and it just came out, but I'm caught between I want more for my family and how much could I possibly want more than I have now? Or how much could I possibly want more than I have now? So, and I'm stuck between that reality, and that's a blessing to even be there.
That's going to be a podcast episode. What's enough?
Yeah. What is enough?
Because it's one of those things we all ask and wrestle with.
Yep. And so, not to say I don't feel like I'm changing too, right? I'm getting older and I know I'm probably don't have the same energy as I used to have and things like that. I still feel the same ambition. I still feel like I want to get out and do things and make things happen and build and create and do all that. But I do have to pay attention to those things too, right? Like I don't have the same amount of energy I had. I'm getting a little older, and I know people that are in their 50s are like, oh, shut up. Anyone in their 30s, shut up. But it's true, right? You start to change. You start to realize like, I'm going to have to start designing a lifestyle that I think my 48-year-old self is going to love.
Right. Yeah. For me, this was absolutely intentional.
Yeah, it was. I knew that.
This was 100%.
I want to be where I want to be.
Intentional.
Yeah.
And that came as a result of living in an area that was 100% intentional for that season.
Right.
Holly and I grew up in inland Pacific Northwest, so east of here, more towards the desert areas. And it was a great life and a great upbringing. And we both went, let's go to Southern California and be beach bums and surf bums. And we chased that dream.
Right.
And we lived that life and we had kids and we went, this no longer serves us.
Right.
And we wanted to be closer to family and we wanted to be back in a small town. And we went, now what? And what's important to us? And we intentionally went, okay, the things I want my kids to learn how to do. I want them to ski, be confident skiers.
It's going to be hard to do in SoCal.
It's hard to do in
Not
Southern
impossible,
California.
but hard.
I want them to be, I want them to love fly fishing. It's really hard to do in Southern California. There's not fly fishing in Southern California. Not like, my version of fly fishing is trout fishing.
Yeah.
So there's not trout fishing. You could do ocean fly fishing down there.
Sure.
I wanted them to mountain bike. And there's mountain biking down there. I wanted them to learn life skills and activities that they'll do their whole life. For me, and we don't see this one the same, which is fine. For me, organized sports means very little.
Yeah.
Being on a team, I see the benefit. I recognize the benefit. I think there are things there to leverage for sure. But, being on a soccer team, baseball team, football team, I never was. Well, I was when I was like in 5th grade.
Right.
Um,
But a great example of that, and I was just kind of listening in when you were talking to Van at camping, was right. He had that moment of like, I don't know if I want to do that. Like, I feel uncomfortable. And you're like, buddy, this is where you can feel uncomfortable. I guess I bring that up because organized sports can also teach just some physical hand-eye coordination skills that can be helpful later in life, just building that confidence, right? You're in a social situation. Everyone's tossing around the pigskin. Feels good to know how to throw it.
Yep.
I mean, just those simple things. So anyway, keep going. But
yeah, and that was a good example
Yeah.
where I was like, look, Van, going out with your friends and throwing a football is going to happen.
yeah,
And you would rather feel uncomfortable here with your cousins
Correct.
and your aunties and uncles than out with your friends.
right.
So I want you to go out there and throw the football and try and catch it, and maybe feel like you're not doing it as well as you want to do it because you need to do it.
Yeah.
And
Good on you.
And so, but the location that we chose here was incredibly intentional. It's a small town, but we have bigger town amenities here because it's a tourist area.
Are you concerned at all? One thing I've thought about, are you concerned at all about, I mean, we live in a little bit of a bubble, right? I mean, it's beautiful here. It's amazing. I wouldn't change it for the world. But it's not diverse. It's, there's zero crime. And again, I want more diversity. I don't want crime. And there's things about this town that are going to stay the same no matter what. Are you concerned about some of that in terms of exposing our kids to reality and what's going on in the real world? Or are you going, no, I don't worry about that at all?
No, because I think the benefits of being here outweigh those things.
Ooh, yeah.
And I think that those, you're going to make compromises somewhere.
Sure.
And I think for me, the compromises in maybe exposure to diversity, and what have you, I think are worth it for the gains of the mountains, the backpacking, the hiking, the fishing, the mountain biking, the skiing,
Right.
the small town, the knowing your neighbor, the knowing the town, just all of the things that was intentional with this move for us outweighed some of those things. It's like, yeah, we're gonna sacrifice some of this. One of those might be the education system. Okay, we sacrifice being in a small town because you have one lane.
Right.
You have one lane. Now, we have a great school system here. I have no beefs with our school system. In fact, our middle school is top 5 in the state.
It's awesome.
So we have a great school system. So we didn't necessarily compromise. And yet, I have an incredibly bright 10-year-old that if we were in Southern California, he would be in a different school system.
Right.
Because he could leverage that for something else.
Right.
So am I sacrificing that? Yeah, I am. But again, one of my tenets isn't on organized school. Like, I don't really care about college. I don't really, as long as you can read well, you write incredibly intelligently and correctly, you understand basic mathematics, the rest will figure itself out and you can look it up. And that's kind of my base tenet of operation when it comes to education is like, let's make the big things and the rest will figure itself out.
Well, the truth is, though, is college teaches you, you learn how to learn. And if you've already developed that skill that Van already has and you already have, then you don't need it.
Yeah.
It's not necessary. But if you, like myself, didn't really, my high school career, I was a pretty social guy. Played sports, social guy, got away with a lot. Teacher favor is real when it comes to athletes. And so I didn't have the discipline that I truly needed in life. And college really helped me with that in a big way. And so it depends on who you are. But I totally understand where you're coming from. But I think one of your other kids may benefit from it.
Yeah.
Who knows? Who knows at this point? They're still pretty little, but yeah, some personalities it's for, some it's not.
Yeah. So I guess life design for me is certainly professionally, but it's the day-to-day, the weekend. It's who I'm choosing to spend my time with. The friends I choose are very intentional.
Right. So what more beyond this would you possibly want? That's where I get caught between that, because I see your lifestyle, I see mine, and I go like, dude, we, and this isn't braggadocious at all. I'm just saying, like, I'm realizing as we're talking it out, like, we have it all.
Yeah.
we have the beautiful wife. We have incredibly cute, fun kids to be around. We have beautiful homes, beautiful location. We get to do the activities we love to do. It's like, man, we're pretty privileged, you know?
Yeah, we really are.
And I don't want that contentment to slow me down either, right? Contentment is the enemy of progress. And I don't want to stop progressing, because I know for myself, whether or not contentment in your head feels like the right thing, you'll slowly, if you're an entrepreneur, true entrepreneur, you'll slowly die inside.
Yeah. What else could I possibly want? I think it comes back to actually to what you just raised, and that is exposure to other things.
Ooh, okay.
So
access.
It's taking my kids and going and living in Costa Rica for 6 months.
Sure.
Right? And being in an area where they have to speak a different language and they are the minority, and what have you. It might be having a house in Southern California so that we can be in a different location with different people, having different experiences, and doing some of that stuff. That's kind of the next level for me.
Yeah.
Is going, yes, we created a fantastic baseline here intentionally. Check. Let's now stack it. Now let's fill the gaps that this baseline we compromised on.
Right.
And let's attack that.
Sure.
So for me, that's the next piece that kind of pushes me forward.
Next level up. Yeah, I like that. Brooke and I are still trying to figure out what we're going to do with the lot.
Yeah.
And whether or not we're going to pivot and, maybe try to find a second home potentially that we can turn into a rental. So yeah, we're having some of those same conversations too, but it's funny, there's just, again, it goes back to, you just make the best decisions you can in the time you do with the information you have available to you, and be okay with it and move on and make better decisions going forward. So all that to say is because we're constantly in that soup.
Yeah.
It just feels like we're just in the soup of options, and that's the blessing, right? Man, we have options. That's incredible. But it can get a little exhausting swimming in that soup for too long. Mm-hmm. And so I'm pretty excited to start resolving what we're doing there so that we can start designing things a little bit more clearly going forward.
I want to take a second here as we kind of trend towards wrapping this up. And that is, you and I, this whole podcast is you and I processing things.
Right.
Okay. And I don't want to alienate somebody that's listening and going, well, good for you guys. You have it figured out. You designed your life. I don't have the privileges that you have. So thanks for, whatever. Like, is what we're talking about with this topic of life design still applicable for someone that makes $60,000 a year in a job that they feel they're stuck in, and is living in a neighborhood that they wish they weren't? And is it every bit as relevant for them?
Yeah, I have no sympathy for those people. Here's why. I was homeless in a drug and alcohol treatment center for a year and a half of my life. So my story is not, I was privileged my whole life and here's what I have now. And
yeah,
I literally was in the bottom of the pit, and I started slowly but surely making micro decisions to start designing a life that I was excited about and wanted for myself. So, not to sound crass and blunt, it's just, I appreciate that you're in a position where you're not wanting to be, but it's up to you to make the decisions to get yourself out of it.
And you said something there, micro decisions. Mm-hmm. Like, I think I wouldn't be surprised if there's somebody listening that's in that situation, just meaning not in a place that they like, that they look at this and go, well, how am I supposed to quit the job that I'm committed to support my family? Like, how do I make big changes like that? And sometimes it needs to start not with big changes. It needs to start with micro decisions. Mm-hmm. And a micro decision might be, and this is totally arbitrary, you turn off your cable and you quit having a cable bill so that you have an extra $75 a month to put to the side to create a buffer or to take a vacation or whatever it might be. It's the small stuff that then gives you the confidence of going, wow, I did that for a year and it was uncomfortable, but it really wasn't that big of a deal.
more people that I've found that ask that question, well, this is my reality. What, how could I possibly? They're usually in a victim mindset,
Yep.
right? And so if you're in a victim mindset of, oh, this is all happening to me, nothing's working out for me, my guess is you have not even started to make a plan. You have not even started putting pen to paper and saying, this is what I want for my life. And then start writing out some if-then statements, right?
Yeah.
If I want this, then I have to do this, right?
Yeah.
There's cause and effects for all of lifestyle decisions.
Yeah.
So, and not to say I care deeply about you, but I don't have a lot of sympathy because I had to realize that for myself.
Yeah.
I had to stop giving myself sympathy and saying, Gavin, shut up, right? Make better decisions. So, and it really boiled down to a conversation I had with a counselor at New Vision, at Union Gospel Mission. I asked him, I said, why is it that some of us stay and some of us go? Like, why am I here? And 4 guys left yesterday and bounced and went and relapsed, back on the streets. And he said, micro decisions. That was it. Small decisions every single day. And for in the addiction world, it kind of starts and stops with stop trying to not think about using and spend all of your time thinking about not using. You know what I mean? So those small micro decisions where you start to reframe the way you see things. I love the quote, when you start to change the way you look at things, the things you look at start to change. And I think that's true with lifestyle design. Yeah.
Yeah. It's, start with the end in mind. Like if you're like, where do I start? Start with a pad of paper and a pen and go, if I had my way, what would this look like? Mm-hmm. And write it down. Even if that's not like, we don't have to get crazy and go, I just won the lottery and I'd be driving a Bugatti and like, okay, let's have some realism.
Yeah.
Okay. And if you want to think that way, that's fine also. Like if you're ready to commit that to your pursuit, great. Like I don't want to take that from you. But whatever it is for you, commit it to paper and go and, man, I wouldn't work on Saturdays. That's a great place to start. Okay. Let's now what micro decisions can we take to not work on Saturdays? Right? Maybe that's saying no to the project because you decide you're not going to chase that promotion.
Right.
And instead you go, if this is my only way to level up, then maybe it means I need to pivot to a different career. And you start looking in other directions or developing new skill sets. And you take that Saturday to read a book about something new so that you can offer something different to an employer but you have to begin with where am I going and what am I trying to create? Because otherwise it's all arbitrary.
Yeah.
You're just winging it.
And I'm just going to add this in there that also, if you're finding yourself constantly hitting a barrier too, do also take a look at your physical health. We can design our lives all we want, but if you're not in a place where you're feeling good, it's gonna be really hard to get traction.
Yep.
So anyway, just a misnomer there.
Yeah, your physical health. If you're not on your game, and that doesn't mean that you're super active and in the gym, but if you're not making good micro decisions as it relates to your health. Mm-hmm. It affects your ability to make good decisions everywhere because you just feel bleh.
Well, a great example today is literally my options for breakfast this morning were a donut or a banana. I chose the banana.
Good job.
I'm not going to lie. I choose the donut a lot. But I chose the banana, and guess what? I sit here right now and I feel good.
Yeah.
I don't feel terrible. I don't feel gross and so it starts with that.
It does.
Starts with little tiny decisions
and that's a hard decision to make because you love donuts.
God, donuts are so good.
Yeah.
Krispy Kreme.
I wish I had a whole box of Krispy Kremes right now.
Funny story. I'm going to tell it just because it's hilarious.
We'll end on this.
Yeah, we'll end on this. We were coming back from a fishing trip from Cleveland, I think. And we stopped to get some food. I can't remember why. I think everything else was closed. We stopped at the gas station. It was late at night. I remember that. Was it? Yeah, anyways, I think it was in the fall. And I just had finished the 6th donut in that pack and stopped, and I was like, oh, dude, I could totally crush a box of Krispy Kremes right now.
I was like, you just ate 6 funfetti glazed donuts.
So when we're talking about physical health, not that. Don't do that.
Yeah, that's not a good micro decision. But here's the thing. We're not perfect either.
No, we're not. We're not. Give yourself grace. Give
yourself grace. I wouldn't say give yourself permission to eat 2 dozen donuts.
Yeah.
But we're all going to have our moments of like, yeah, that was not wise.
Yeah.
And it's okay. And laugh at yourself and then do better next time.
And here's I'm going to finish with this thought. And I don't even know if it's true, but I had heard this. So take it with a grain of salt. Don't you love how I start with that? But apparently the executive board at Nike was meeting together to come up with their marketing slogan, what they were going to choose. And apparently the CEO asked the chief of marketing, hey, where are we at? What's going on? And he goes, man, we're trying to come up with something. And the CEO looked at him and he said, try is bullshit. Just do it. And that's where they say they came up with the saying, just do it. And I love that, right? Like, yes, all we can do is try at the end of the day, right? We're human beings. We're imperfect, but just do it.
Yeah.
Like stop living in this soup of trying. Like, just get after it. Go do it, right? Stop making excuses.
Yep.
I'm just as guilty as you are making excuses to not do what I need to do to
sure.
Reach, the levels I want to reach, but do it.
Yeah. Love that. All right.
Okay, we're out. Until next time.
Thanks, everybody.
Thank you for tuning in to Processing Purpose. We hope you grabbed a few golden nuggets to take one step forward in your journey of life and business. Please remember to like and subscribe our channel if you'd like to get more content to help you build and grow everything around you. Make today your best day. Today is day one.